Today I have another interesting episode for you guys. Unfortunately, I don't know why this same topic keeps coming up, which is the topic of perennialism, or the idea, the claim by some people who actually claim to be Muslim, like Imran Hussein, and in this case we'll see a major Ash'ari scholar today is making a very similar claim, that Christians and Jews, even those living today, don't necessarily have to follow Islam. They can still make it to Jannah. They can still make it to paradise, because following Christianity and Judaism they're all Islam. It's just another form of Islam. This is what is called the technical term perennialism, in which some claim that those who follow these other religions can make it to paradise, and it makes no difference really whether they follow Islam properly or not. Now, for people who don't know, this is so obviously against the clear texts of the Quran and Sunnah. And we don't even really need to go far for most people for them to understand this. But unfortunately, this happened with Imran Hussein, and then Andrew Tate pretty much saying the same thing. Oh yeah, we believe everything in the Bible. The Quran says the Christians are right. No, it doesn't. It says they're upon kufr. It says they're upon disbelief. And now we have a major contemporary Ash'ari scholar today who is saying the exact same thing, right? Now, the person who I'm going to play a video from commenting on this is another major Ash'ari scholar today, well respected, and he corrects him, but there's a couple key points that I want to pick up on from his correction.
عندي سؤال كان قبل أيام قال الشيخ علي جمعة عن سؤال طفلة حول نجاة اليهود والنصارى، ما قولكم فيه؟ بهذا بقوله ليس فيه.
هذا مش سؤال سياسي هذا. نعم، يعني أنت تريد رأيي في جوابي.
Okay, so this is at a conference or something like that, and the video is in Arabic. The translation should be displayed on the screen, but I'm going to break it down as we go through it. So the questioner asks, recently there was Sheikh Ali Gomaa, who is an Egyptian scholar, was actually the Grand Mufti of Egypt for, I believe, over 10 years, has a lot of connections there in Egypt, and we'll see even from Saeed Fouda that he is well respected amongst the Sufi Ash'aris today. And that's why this is particularly important, because we need to pick up on these people who are deviants, who are completely misleading the Ummah and trying to normalize this opinion as if it has any truth or ground in Islam whatsoever. And so he says, I want you to comment on this guy, Sheikh Ali Gomaa's statement, where he was questioned about the status of Jews and Christians, whether or not they can have salvation and make it to paradise, whether or not they can make it to Jannah. And we're going to see from another Ash'ari, Saeed Fouda, is going to open up with telling us how much he loves and respects and cares for this sheikh, his good Ash'ari Sufi buddy. But nevertheless, the reason why I'm mentioning that, and you'll see in just a second, I'm going to make a point about that. Let's take a listen to see what his response is.
يعني كما تعلم لسنا الآن في مقام أن نقول إنه الشيخ علي جمعة يعني شيخ فاضل وعالم مشهور وله أعمال يعني معترف بها ولها أثر عظيم يعني عند أهل السنة وغير أهل السنة. هذا الكلام ليس مجال إبدائه الآن. يعني لا أحد ينكر هذا الكلام.
So he starts off by saying, well, look, it's not really the time to sit here and praise and talk about all the accolades of this Sheikh Ali Gomaa, and it's not really the time to do it. But then he basically does that by saying, yeah, he's well known, he's mashhur, he's well known, and he's well known for defending the position of Quran and Sunnah, this kind of nonsense of saying, yeah, he's a well-known, respected sheikh. Many of his works are known. It's not really the time to mention that, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Now, why do I mention that? Because for people who don't know, this particular guy, Saeed Foda, this Ash'ari, he is very well known for being so harsh against Ahl al-Hadith, or the Salafis, or the Atharis, or whatever you would like to call us. Those who actually are following the Quran and Sunnah as understood by the righteous companions and those who were following them. He's very harsh with us. What does he say about Ibn Taymiyyah? What does he say about those who are following the same positions that Ibn Taymiyyah has? And not just because we're followers of Ibn Taymiyyah, but because he had the correct positions on these things as they relate to the Quran and Sunnah as understood by the Salaf as-Salih. Now, it's interesting that on an issue of kufr, which the statement that this sheikh, his good buddy, his good Ash'ari Sufi buddy makes, is a clear statement of kufr. There's no question about it, and he even says it himself, Saeed Foda says it himself. Why? Because it's a position that negates what is known in the religion by necessity, meaning there's no question about it whatsoever. So to negate it is kufr. It's a kufri position to hold. Now, if this were somebody who was not an Ash'ari Sufi, who was a follower of the Athari Aqidah, how would he be responding to this? Would he lightly be saying, oh yeah, praising him in the beginning and saying, oh yeah, we don't really want to talk about his accolades too much, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to be somewhat polite as I... No. In fact, there would be all types of name-calling, slanders, maybe even takfir being made. So I just want to point out that clear inconsistency in the fact how this guy is a complete hypocrite. So I'm not making this video to highlight his sincerity or how much we should adore him. I don't want anybody to be confused about that whatsoever. But in this case, he is representing at least the Orthodox Sunni position, which is that the Jews and the Christians who lived during this time, who did not follow the Prophet ﷺ, who heard about him, who remain upon their kufr and follow their kufri false religions, they will be in the hellfire. That's a clear position. There's no question about it. And this is, again, something that is known in the religion by necessity. And the reason I'm highlighting this again from somebody else, because I'm showing it's not only Andrew Tate, it's not only Imran Hussein. Unfortunately, many of these Ash'ari Sufis, these perennialists, are going around promoting such views. And we have to warn against it. Now, people said, and I'm already imagining the comments, oh, Brother Jake, you need to calm down. And you need to stop making takfir. First of all, I didn't make takfir on Andrew Tate. I did make takfir on Imran Hussein, because there's no question about that. But in this case, I'm again calling out the clear kufr. It's a kufri position to hold. Some people like it, some people don't. That doesn't mean that negates all the other things that I'm doing here on my channel. I don't make that my main focus, but this is an issue that I felt needed to be highlighted, especially recently. So anyway, after he goes and praises his good Ash'ari Sufi Sheikh, let's see what he actually responds to and commenting on his position.
فهي تسأل عن اليهودي والنصراني الموجود الآن. اليهودي الموجود الآن في هذا الوقت، في الوقت ده يعني، والنصراني الموجود في الوقت ده. أنا لا أعرف يعني صراحة ما هو الذي.
So he makes clear from the outset that the questioner, the girl who asked him the question, specifically was referring to the Jews and the Christians of this time. Not the people who could be called Jews or Christians, even though we believe they were Muslims, true followers of Musa alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam. No, yeah, they were Muslims. They have their status in Jannah, inshallah. That's what the Quran is basically saying in the verse that this Sheikh Ali Gomaa is misrepresenting. That's what the position is, that those people are not going to be forsaken by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just because new revelation came in. As long as they were correctly following the previous prophets and didn't distort the message and didn't fall into kufr and shirk, then of course, inshallah, they'll be in paradise. But he's making very clear from the outset that the girl is talking about Jews and Christians living today in this time, not 500 years ago, not 2,000 years ago, etc.
دفع الشيخ علي جمعة أن يقول أن قوله تعالى في الآية التي ذكر فيها اليهود والنصارى والصابئين من آمن وعمل صالحا، أن يقول كل ده إسلام، كل ده يعني إسلام. استغربت في الحقيقة، أنا صدمت يعني من هذا الكلام، أن يقال كل ده يعني كل هذا إسلام. كل هذا على ماذا الإشارة؟ كل هذا يعني كل من اليهودية والنصرانية والصابئية إسلام. هذا كلام غريب أنا لا أعرفه يعني بصراحة، لا في القرآن ولا في السنة. بالعكس لا أجده في القرآن والسنة. في القرآن خلينا نتكلم على القرآن.
So he starts off by saying that his good buddy, his good Ash'ari Sufi buddy, misinterprets the verse where I believe it's in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 62, where it mentions, surely those who believe, the Jews, Christians, and the Sabians, right, they will have their reward and will not be neglected and be in paradise, etc., etc. But as he'll go on later to talk about, of course, those are people who, referring to previously, who were following the correct religion at the time, which of course was always Islam, but following the specific laws that were brought down by Musa alayhi salam or by Isa alayhi salam, etc., etc. It refers to those people are not going to be neglected. They will have their reward. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to assure the people, because people may be worried about, oh, well, what about the people before the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? Then it comes to, now, once the message has been made clear to the people, they have to follow the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And that is the way to paradise. You can't just simply reject him because for whatever reason. No, it doesn't work like that. So he says, look, this completely, I don't know where he's getting this interpretation from. This is what Saeed Foda is saying about his buddy. And then he says, and not only is it not found anywhere in the Quran, it clearly contradicts the Quran, which is correct. And now he's going to give some examples.
موضعا واحدا، لا أجد موضعا واحدا في القرآن يصف النصرانية واليهودية بأنها إسلام. أبدا لا يوجد. بل كل المواضع التي ذكر فيها النصرانية واليهودية بهذا اللقب على سبيل الذم، إما كفروا أو أشركوا أو لعنوا أو نحو ذلك. فكيف يمكن لنا أن نقول إنه كل هذا إسلام؟ قطعا هذا الجواب غير صحيح. أنا أتكلم من ناحية يعني عقائدية، لا أتكلم من ناحية سياسية. الشيخ علي جمعة بحبه وأنا متأكد أنه بحبني، لكن نحن لا نتكلم على المحبة الآن.
So he's making clear that anytime Judaism or Christianity or these type of religions are mentioned in the Quran, they always have a negative connotation, that these are people who disbelieved, that these are people who committed shirk, that these are people who corrupted their scriptures, and so on and so forth, which is perfectly correct, right? That they're even cursed, and so on and so forth. And then, but then he goes on to mention about, again, his good buddy. He wants to be clear. Look, I know that he loves me and I love him, or we're fond of each other, but nevertheless, I still have to give you the correct answer. Now, would he be talking this way if it was somebody like me who came out with this astaghfirullah kufri position? Somebody who is opposed to Ash'ari Aqidah? Would he be having the same level of leeway and, joking around? Yeah, I'm just answering this theologically to be clear. I still, me and the Sheikh, we love each other. So just to point out this guy's hypocrisy. But anyway, let's take a listen further.
إنه ما رأيك في جوابه؟ أنا أقول بكل وضوح وبكل صراحة إن جوابه ليس صحيحا، ولا يجوز أن يعتقد ولا يجوز أن يلتفت إليه. حتى الالتفات إليه لا يجوز. يعني أن يعتبر أنه قول، لا يجوز أن يعد قول الشيخ علي جمعة قولا، لأنه قول مناف للظاهر والصريح من القرآن الكريم. لا يجوز.
So then he says that, and to be clear, even though his good Ash'ari Sufi buddy has this opinion, he said it is impermissible, la yajuz, or haram. It's impermissible for someone to adopt this guy's opinion. You can't say, oh yeah, this Sheikh Ali Joma said this, so I can hold that. No, he's saying no. It's la yajuz. It's not permissible for someone to take this opinion just because he said it. Why? And then this is important to note. He says because it contradicts the zahir of the Quran. It contradicts the apparent meaning of the Quran. Well, hold on a second, and this really deserves an entirely different video. But isn't the standard Ash'ari position that the zahir of the Quran is actually kufr? That they even say, as Al-Amidi said, that in fact, the zahir of the Quran, the apparent meaning of the Quran, cannot be used as a hujjah. It cannot be used as a proof to establish any position. And then other Ash'ari scholars explicitly say that the zahir of the Quran is kufr. So it's interesting when it suits him, right? When he wants to combat his perennialist Sufi buddy here by saying, oh, the zahir of the Quran contradicts what he's saying, so he's wrong. But when the zahir of the Quran contradicts his Ash'ari aqidah, you throw it out the bus. You say, no, the zahir of the Quran, the apparent meaning of the Quran, is not a hujjah, is not a proof. It cannot be used in theological discussions or for forming a theological opinion. So again, inconsistency.
من ترك ديانة اليهودية والنصرانية والصابئية وتمسك بدين الإسلام. هذا هو معنى الآية. هذا هو الذي يغفر الله له ويتقبله ويقبل أعماله. أما غيرهم بصفة كونه يهوديا أو نصرانيا ويبقى على اليهودية والنصرانية حسب ما أفهمه أنا وحسب ما قرره العلماء وحسب ما هو واضح وظاهر من آيات القرآن الكريم لا يقال عليها إسلام قطعا. لا مجال للتردد في ذلك ولا مجال للنظر في ذلك ولا يجوز. أنا أقول لا يجوز أن تجعل هذه المسألة محل نقاش أصلا عند أهل الإسلام. مش إنه ليس فقط إنه لا يجوز أن يقال قال الشيخ علي جمعة، لا، هذا قول غير معتبر من أساسه. هذه المسألة هي من المعلوم من الدين بالضرورة، من المسائل المعلومة من الدين بالضرورة، وأنا أعتقد لكن أن يعاد.
So there he's explaining that his good Ash'ari Sufi buddy is misinterpreting the verse. It can refer to people before who were following the previous prophets correctly. They will be forgiven, inshallah, and be granted paradise. But for those today and after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they have to follow the Quran and Sunnah. They have to follow Islam. You cannot say that Christianity, Judaism, and all these other isms are Islam. They're not Islam. He says very clearly, and he's correct about this, right? And he basically repeating again that just because he's saying it, you cannot follow this opinion. This is not a genuine opinion in Islam. This is not even something to be debated upon, he says. Why? Because he says it's something which is known in the religion by necessity. And if you negate something that is known in the religion by necessity, that's kufr. So there you have it. Now let's go back to this clip here.
صناعة مفهوم جديد في الدين من دون أسس هذا أمر باطل. ولذلك يعني قبل الشيخ علي جمعة مثل عدنان إبراهيم قال إن اليهود والنصارى قبل عدة سنوات إن اليهود والنصارى لا يجب عليهم المتابعة والإذعان لشريعة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم، فقط كل ما عليهم هي أن يعترفوا بأنه نبي ويبقى كل واحد منهم على يهوديته ونصرانيته. هذا كلام باطل. هذا كلام باطل مخالف للمعلوم من الدين بالضرورة، مخالف لما قام به النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. يعني أنا أستغرب يعني سبحان الله يعني.
So now he's explaining that before his good buddy Sheikh Ali Juma, there was a guy, a fraudster, Adnan Ibrahim, who was going around basically saying the same thing, that even the Jews and Christians of today, they don't necessarily have to follow Islam proper or the Quran and Sunnah or follow the Prophet ﷺ. All they have to do is believe that he's a prophet, but they can still follow their false religions. He says, no, of course this is wrong, right? This clearly again goes against what is known in the religion by necessity. And he's criticizing Adnan Ibrahim. He said, هذا كلام باطل, meaning that this is clearly a false statement. Clearly a false claim.
يقولون مثل هذه الأقوال أين ذهبت عقولهم عنهم عندما يقرؤون في السيرة النبوية؟ الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم أول شيء يعني قامه من أوائل الأعمال بعثة الرسل إلى كسرى وقيصر وجميع بلاد العالم إنه اعلموا أني رسول من عند الله، فيجب عليكم أن تؤمنوا بي وأن تطيعوني وتدعوا ما أنتم عليه من الديانات المنحرفة وتطيعوا وتذعنوا وتسلموا بهذا الدين الذي أتيت به. إذا كان النصراني لا بأس عليه إن بقي نصرانيا، واليهودي لا بأس عليه إن بقي يهوديا. طب لماذا أرسل الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم هؤلاء الدعاة والرسل؟ ولماذا يعني حارب الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم اليهود والنصارى؟ وفي زمانه حاربهم وقاتلهم وأمر المسلمين أن ينشروا الدعوة بين اليهود والنصارى. لماذا؟ يعني كيف نستطيع أن نفسر هذا القول؟ هل كان الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يعرف فعلا أن اليهود والنصارى ناجون إذا بقوا على نصرانيتهم؟ هذا يعني اتهام بأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم جاهل، وهذا لا يصح، هذا كفر بالله سبحانه وتعالى.
So there and that's the end of the clip that I'm going to play, he's explaining to the audience that this opinion contradicts the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. Because at his time, what did he do? He tried to give da'wah to the Christians and the Jews and said that they must submit and obey him and follow his laws that he was bringing and coming with. He didn't say that, oh yeah, don't worry, just believe I'm a prophet. You can believe in your religions and follow whatever you want. He didn't do that. He sent letters to foreign dictators. He called to Islam. He called for the people to obey Islam and the laws that he was coming with from the Quran. So, and was telling his Sahaba, his companions, to do the exact same thing, requiring them to actually give da'wah to the Christians and Jews. And that he and his followers, his companions, actually did what? Had wars with Jews and Christians. All of this wouldn't make any sense if the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran clearly were fine with the Christians and Jews remaining upon their false religions, upon their kufr and shirk. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And then he says, so to even have this position is to claim that the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, would be to call him jahil, to say that the Prophet, peace be upon him, is ignorant, that he would behave in such a manner, calling people to Islam, and yet it wasn't necessary. You're basically calling the Prophet, peace be upon him, a jahil. You're calling him ignorant, which he says, explicitly says is kufr. It's kufr billah to call the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, ignorant, jahil. So it's very clear, folks. I wanted to show another example that this is a very dangerous ideology that unfortunately I've had to talk about several times recently between Andrew Tate, who I didn't takfir for the people in the comment section, fanboying for him. This guy now, Sheikh Ali Gomaa, this big Ash'ari Sufi guy, and I called out Saeed Foda's inconsistencies. What if this was an Ethari who had this position, right? Who negated his Ash'ari Aqidah. And he pointed out, and he's trying to use the Zahir of the Quran to refute his buddy, but yet they all throw it under the bus when it comes to Ash'ari Aqidah in general. And you already know about the great Imran Hussein. So this is a trend that we have to throw under the bus. Perennialism is clear kufr. It goes against the clear text of the Quran and Sunnah. It goes against the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. It goes against so many basic things in Islam. It is known in the religion by necessity to be wrong. So someone who accepts that position is on a kufri belief. Very clear. I hope that's clear for everybody. People are not confused whatsoever. With that being said, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it educational. If you did and you'd like to see more videos like it, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell to get notified of future videos when they come out. Also, like this video if you enjoyed it, as well as the other videos that you enjoy. Comment on it. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know, okay, Jake, we agree with you, or we think you're out of pocket, etc. And I try to engage in the comments when I can. Also, share this video on your social media platforms or with your friends and family, no matter how big or how small your reach is. It really does help with the algorithm. Also, if you want to go above and beyond and support my channel, then the best way to do so is the GoFundMe link, which is pinned at the top of the description of this video, as well as my other videos. With that being said, guys, until next time, hopefully you can stop talking about this kufri perennialist nonsense. But until then, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.